David, and Goliath. In the days of King Saul, the Israelites were at war with the Philistines. The Philistines gathered on one hill, and the Israelites stood on another, with a valley between them. From the Philistine camp came a giant named Goliath, a champion from Gath. Goliath stood over 9 feet tall and wore heavy bronze armor. He carried a huge spear with an iron point that weighed 600 shekels. Each morning and evening for 40 days, Goliath stepped forward and mocked Israel. "Choose a man and let him come down to me," Goliath shouted to the Israelite army. "If he kills me, we will be your servants. But if I prevail, you will serve us." The Israelites were terrified and fled from him in fear. David, a young shepherd from Bethlehem, was the youngest son of Jesse. David's 3 oldest brothers served on the battlefield with King Saul's army. Jesse sent David to bring food to his brothers and to check on them. When David arrived, he heard Goliath's challenge and saw the fear in Israel's camp. David asked the soldiers, "Who is this Philistine that defies the armies of the living God?" They told him the king would reward the man who defeated Goliath with riches in the hand of his daughter. David said, "Let no one lose heart. I will go and fight this Philistine." When Saul heard this, he sent for David and said, "You are not able to fight him. You are only a boy." David replied, "I have killed lions and bears while protecting my sheep. The Lord will deliver me." David said, "The Lord who saved me from the paw of the lion will save me from the hand of this Philistine." Saul said, "Go, and the Lord be with you." Saul dressed David in his own armor, but David could not walk in it. He took off the armor and chose 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream. David placed the stones in his shepherd's pouch and carried his sling in his hand. With his staff and sling, David approached the Philistine. Goliath saw David and laughed, saying, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" He cursed David by his gods and said, "Come here, and I'll give your flesh to the birds." David answered, "You come with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the Lord Almighty. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and the world will know there is a God in Israel." David ran quickly toward Goliath, reaching into his pouch for a stone. He placed the stone in his sling and swung it around with speed and precision. The stone flew through the air and struck Goliath in the forehead. The stone struck with vicious precision, and Goliath fell face down to the ground. David ran to him, took Goliath's own sword, and cut off his head. When the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they turned and fled. The men of Israel shouted and chased the Philistines as far as the gates of Ekron. They struck down their enemies and plundered their camp. David took the head of Goliath and brought it to Jerusalem. He kept Goliath's armor as a trophy of God's victory. King Saul asked, "Whose son are you, young man?" David replied, "I am the son of your servant, Jesse of Bethlehem." David became known throughout Israel as the giant slayer. The people praised him, and the Lord's favor was with him. David's courage showed that the battle belongs to the Lord. He trusted not in weapons or size, but in the power of the living God. The Lord used a humble shepherd boy to defeat a mighty warrior. David's victory was not for his own glory, it was for God's name. Goliath mocked God, but God delivered justice through David. Through weakness, God's strength was revealed to all of Israel. The people were reminded that God saves, not with sword or spear. David went on to serve Saul, playing the harp to soothe the king's spirit. He led Israel's armies and won many battles with God's help. Though Saul became jealous, God's hand remained on David. David walked in faith, trusting the Lord through every trial. He grew in wisdom, strength, and favor with the people. One day, David would be anointed king over all of Israel. He would be called a man after God's own heart. But it all began with a sling, a stone, and great faith. God chose a shepherd boy to silence a giant. David did not seek fame, he sought to honor God. The Lord does not look at outward appearance, but at the heart. Goliath looked invincible, but God had a plan. When we trust God, no enemy is too strong, no obstacle too great. David's story reminds us that true strength comes from faith. God uses the unlikely to do the impossible. The victory in the valley of Elah belonged to the Lord.